Right now you think your mind is inside your skull, safely tucked away behind your eyes, generating your thoughts and consciousness from the firing of neurons in your brain. But Stephen Hawking's final research suggests something so radical it could shatter everything you believe about the nature of your own mind. What if your consciousness isn't actually inside your head at all? What if it exists somewhere else entirely, in a place that defies everything we thought we knew about reality? Hawking spent his last years working on what he called the most important discovery of his career, something that could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness, reality, and the very nature of existence itself. His findings suggest that your mind might be a hologram, projected from the edges of space-time, existing everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, and the implications are absolutely terrifying. This isn't just theoretical physics anymore. This is about the fundamental nature of who you are, where your thoughts come from, and what happens to your consciousness when your brain stops working. Hawking's discovery could mean that death isn't the end of consciousness, but merely a transition to a different state of existence. Before we dive into this mind-bending revelation that could change everything you think you know about yourself, hit that subscribe button because we're about to explore the most profound mystery in the universe, the location of your own mind. Stephen Hawking's journey into the nature of consciousness began with his work on black holes and what physicists call the information paradox. When matter falls into a black hole, it seems to disappear forever, taking all its information with it. But quantum mechanics says information can never be truly destroyed. This created a fundamental conflict between two of our most successful theories, general relativity and quantum mechanics. For decades, Hawking wrestled with this paradox. Where does the information go when it falls into a black hole? His answer would revolutionize not just our understanding of black holes, but of consciousness itself. He proposed that information isn't actually stored inside the black hole at all, but rather encoded on its two-dimensional surface, the event horizon. This is known as the holographic principle, and it suggests that all the information about a three-dimensional volume of space can be stored on its two-dimensional boundary. But here's where Hawking's insight becomes truly revolutionary. If the holographic principle applies to black holes, why shouldn't it apply to everything else? What if all the information about our three-dimensional universe is actually stored on a distant two-dimensional surface? What if reality itself is a hologram, projected from the edges of space-time? This led Hawking to a shocking conclusion about consciousness. If the universe is holographic, and if information about everything in our three-dimensional world is encoded on a distant boundary, then your mind, your thoughts, your very sense of self might not be generated by your brain at all. Instead, your consciousness could be information encoded on the holographic boundary of the universe, projected into your brain like a cosmic movie playing on the screen of your neurons. Think about what this means. Your brain might not be creating your thoughts. It might simply be receiving them, like a television picking up signals broadcast from somewhere else. Your consciousness could exist as information distributed across the holographic boundary of the universe, with your brain acting as a receiver that translates this information into the experience of being you. Hawking realized that this holographic model of consciousness could solve some of the deepest mysteries about the mind. How does consciousness arise from unconscious matter? How can subjective experience emerge from objective physical processes? If consciousness is fundamentally informational and exists on the holographic boundary of reality, then it's not bound by the same physical limitations as matter and energy in our three-dimensional world. But the implications go far beyond solving philosophical puzzles. If your mind exists as information on the holographic boundary, then it's not confined to your skull or even to your lifetime. The information that constitutes your consciousness could persist even after your brain stops functioning, encoded permanently in the structure of space-time itself. This suggests that death might not be the end of consciousness, but rather a change in how that consciousness is accessed and experienced. When your brain dies, the information that makes you who you are doesn't disappear. It remains encoded on the holographic boundary, potentially accessible through other means or in other forms. Hawking's research into quantum mechanics and information theory revealed even more startling possibilities. If consciousness is informational and exists on the holographic boundary, then it might be possible for different minds to share information directly, without going through the physical world. This could explain phenomena like telepathy, shared dreams, and the mysterious connections that sometimes exist between people who are physically separated. The physicist also considered how this holographic model might explain the unity of consciousness. Your brain contains billions of neurons, each firing independently, yet you experience a single, unified stream of consciousness. How do all these separate neural events combine into one coherent experience? If consciousness exists on the holographic boundary, then this unity is natural, because the information is already integrated at the fundamental level of reality. But here's where Hawking's discovery becomes truly mind-bending. If consciousness is holographic, then every part of the holographic boundary contains information about the whole. This means that your consciousness isn't localized to one specific region of the boundary, but is distributed throughout it. In a sense, your mind exists everywhere in the universe simultaneously. This distributed nature of holographic consciousness could explain some of the stranger aspects of human experience. Why do you sometimes have insights that seem to come from nowhere? Why do creative breakthroughs often occur when you're not actively thinking about a problem? If your consciousness has access to information distributed across the entire holographic boundary, then you might occasionally tap into knowledge and insights that exist beyond your individual experience. Let me ask you something that might change how you think about your own mind. If your consciousness is really holographic information projected from the edges of space-time, what does that say about the nature of your thoughts right now? Are the ideas forming in your mind truly yours, or are you accessing information that exists in a cosmic database of consciousness? Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this possibility, because the answer might be more profound than you realize. Hawking's holographic consciousness theory also has implications for artificial intelligence and the possibility of uploading human minds to computers. If consciousness is fundamentally informational, then it might be possible to copy the information pattern that constitutes a person's mind and run it on different hardware. This could lead to a form of digital immortality where human consciousness persists long after biological bodies have failed. But the physicist also recognized the darker implications of this discovery. If consciousness is holographic and distributed across the boundary of the universe, then privacy might be an illusion. The information that makes up your thoughts and experiences could potentially be accessed by any sufficiently advanced intelligence that knows how to read the holographic boundary. This raises profound questions about the nature of individual identity. If your consciousness is part of a larger holographic information structure, are you truly separate from other conscious beings? Hawking speculated that individual minds might be like waves on an ocean, appearing separate but actually part of a larger unified consciousness field. The implications for free will are equally startling. If your thoughts and decisions are information patterns encoded on the holographic boundary, then they might be determined by the overall structure of this boundary rather than by your individual brain. This could mean that free will is an illusion, or conversely, that free will operates at the level of the holographic boundary itself, making you part of a cosmic decision-making process. Hawking's research also suggested that the holographic boundary might exist outside of normal space and time. This means that your consciousness could have access to information from the past and future, explaining phenomena like precognition and the sense that time sometimes seems to flow differently during intense experiences. The physicist explored how this timeless aspect of holographic consciousness might relate to near-death experiences and mystical states. If consciousness can access information from the holographic boundary directly, bypassing the normal filtering mechanisms of the brain, then people in these altered states might be experiencing reality from the perspective of the boundary itself, where all times and places are equally present. But perhaps the most profound aspect of Hawking's discovery is what it reveals about the relationship between mind and reality. If consciousness is holographic and exists on the boundary of the universe, then observers like us aren't just passive witnesses to reality, we're active participants in creating it. The act of observation might literally bring aspects of the holographic information into three-dimensional existence. This observer effect could explain why quantum mechanics seems to require conscious observers to collapse wave functions and determine the outcomes of quantum measurements. If consciousness exists on the holographic boundary and has the power to project information into three-dimensional reality, then conscious observation might be the mechanism by which possibilities become actualities. Hawking also considered how this holographic model might explain the fine-tuning of the universe for conscious life. If consciousness is fundamental to the structure of reality itself, existing on the holographic boundary, then the universe might naturally evolve toward configurations that support conscious observers. The anthropic principle wouldn't be a coincidence, but a natural consequence of consciousness being built into the fabric of space-time. The physicist's work on holographic consciousness also connects to his theories about the multiverse. If consciousness exists on the holographic boundary, and if there are multiple universes with their own boundaries, then your consciousness might have access to information from parallel realities. This could explain déjà vu, dreams of impossible worlds, and the sense that you sometimes know things you've never learned. But Hawking recognized that this holographic model of consciousness raises as many questions as it answers. How does the information on the boundary get translated into subjective experience? What determines which part of the holographic information corresponds to your individual consciousness versus someone else's? How does the boundary itself come to exist, and what lies beyond it? These questions led the physicist to speculate about even more radical possibilities. What if consciousness isn't just encoded on the holographic boundary, but is actually the boundary itself? What if the structure of space-time emerges from consciousness rather than consciousness emerging from space-time? This would make mind the fundamental reality, with matter and energy being projections of conscious information. Recent developments in neuroscience have provided some support for Hawking's holographic consciousness theory. Studies of the brain's neural networks show that information is distributed across many regions rather than localized in specific areas. The brain seems to operate more like a hologram than a computer, with each part containing information about the whole. Research into quantum effects in the brain has also revealed that quantum coherence might play a role in consciousness. If the brain can maintain quantum coherence, then it might be able to access information from the holographic boundary directly, providing a mechanism for the kind of non-local consciousness that Hawking's theory predicts. The physicist also explored how holographic consciousness might explain the hard problem of consciousness. Why there's something it's like to be conscious, rather than just unconscious information processing. If consciousness is fundamental to the holographic boundary, then subjective experience isn't something that emerges from complex information processing. It's the basic nature of information itself. This could mean that everything in the universe has some form of consciousness, from electrons to galaxies, with human consciousness being just one particularly complex form of this universal awareness. Your mind wouldn't be unique in being conscious, but unique in the specific pattern of consciousness it represents. Hawking's discovery also has implications for the future evolution of consciousness. If consciousness is holographic and can be encoded as information, then it might be possible to enhance human consciousness by improving our connection to the holographic boundary. This could lead to expanded awareness, enhanced creativity, and access to knowledge that exists beyond individual experience. But the physicist also warned about the potential dangers of this technology. If consciousness can be manipulated at the level of the holographic boundary, then it might be possible to alter or control human minds in ways that are currently unimaginable. The power to read and write information on the holographic boundary could be the ultimate form of mind control. Stephen Hawking never lived to fully develop his holographic consciousness theory, but his preliminary work suggests that the nature of mind is far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined. Your consciousness might not be trapped inside your skull, but distributed across the cosmos, connected to every other conscious being through the holographic structure of reality itself. The physicist's legacy in consciousness research extends beyond pure science into the deepest questions about human nature and our place in the universe. If consciousness is holographic, then you're not just a biological machine generating thoughts through neural activity. You're a cosmic phenomenon, a unique pattern of information in the holographic structure of reality, connected to the fundamental nature of existence itself. So the next time you have a thought, remember that it might not be coming from inside your head. It could be information from the holographic boundary of the universe, projected into your brain and experienced as your own consciousness. You might be more than just a human being. You might be a window through which the universe experiences itself. The implications are staggering. If Hawking was right, then consciousness isn't produced by the brain, but received by it. Your mind exists everywhere and nowhere, distributed across the cosmic hologram that underlies all of reality. Death might not be the end of consciousness, but simply a change in how that consciousness is accessed and experienced. This means that every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every decision you make is part of a vast, interconnected web of consciousness that spans the entire universe. You're not alone in your head. You're part of a cosmic community of minds, all sharing information through the holographic structure of space-time itself. If this exploration of Stephen Hawking's revolutionary consciousness theory has fundamentally changed how you think about the nature of your own mind, make sure to smash that like button to support more deep dives into the most profound mysteries of human existence. Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest investigations into the questions that could redefine what it means to be human. Share this video with anyone who's ever wondered about the true nature of consciousness and where thoughts really come from, because this discovery could transform our understanding of life, death, and the very essence of being. And let me know in the comments if your consciousness really is holographic information projected from the edges of space-time. How does that change your understanding of who you are? Do you think this explains experiences like intuition, creativity, or the sense of connection with others? What would it mean for humanity if we could learn to access the holographic boundary directly? Drop your thoughts below and join our community of consciousness explorers as we continue to unravel the deepest mysteries of mind and reality. The true nature of consciousness is waiting to be discovered, and with your support, we're just beginning to scratch the surface of Stephen Hawking's most profound and revolutionary insights.